Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk once again about Games Workshop, who have recently expanded upon the warpath that they are currently on, which previously was focused on mods for Tabletop Simulator. However, they have expanded it now to also include channels on YouTube that cover 3D printing. And this, for the record, is including models that are not actually Games Workshop models, but actually third-party. So it's not even focusing on just bootleg Warhammer, it's just focusing on tabletop models in general, because we all know how Games Workshop can be. They'll steal ideas from everyone else, with absolutely zero hesitation and do it all day, but then will also turn around and pretend like they're the actual originator of those said ideas, and promptly show absolutely zero hesitation in sending the full force of their legal team towards anyone with an idea that even remotely begins to resemble a Games Workshop product. That is, of course, how it has been for a very long time. To the tune that, never forget, they threatened Arch with a copyright lawsuit because he dared to have his channel name be Arch Warhammer. And also never forget the wokehammer part of the crowd that were the fake fans that were cheering it on, completely ignoring the long-term consequences that it would inevitably bring. And now we are all starting to reap what they have allowed to be sown. And not only allowed to be sown, but actively encouraged and helped in sowing at that. I have no tears shed over a wokehammer activist who was previously cheering on Arch, now receiving the exact same sort of treatment in return. I hold no sympathy for them crying over it now. That said, I am still fully aware of the cost of allowing this to continue unabated, of allowing GW to do whatever the hell it wants, just because it happens to people I don't like, and the cost is simply too great to bear. We've already witnessed a fair bit of it for years now. It will only continue to get worse. Yet, on the bright side, this whole situation does expose a glaring weakness and fear that Games Workshop is fully aware of themselves, and is now actively trying to curtail. That threat, that dangerous dagger that they so fear, is of course the promise of 3D printing. 3D printing as a resource, as a tool, has the capacity to bring Games Workshop to utter ruin. It is more than capable of completely dismantling their business model, and they are fully aware of this. And it is clearly for this reason that they are, in part, so heavily invested in going out of their way to curtail the very knowledge of how to do 3D printing, even when it is involving models from other third-party companies. And thus, Games Workshop doesn't even have the vaguest excuse to file a false DMCA claim. Of course, it isn't the only reason. There is also the fact that Games Workshop has hired an AI company to protect their IP and automatically scan videos on YouTube, which inevitably results in false positives and therefore false DMCA claims being made. Yet this is behavior that is not exactly foreign to Games Workshop. It has been completely in keeping with how they have operated their business model for years. Overreach is just simply nothing new to them. Again, look at what they did to Arch. So the big question becomes, how does one combat Games Workshop? How does one deal a blow to that company in response to all of this? The answer is from a business perspective, and it is 3D printing at the end of the day. As I previously mentioned, this is something that Games Workshop is very well afraid of, and for very good reason. They fully realize the technology's potential, and so do some of the fans of Warhammer 40k for that matter. So let this be an impetus to expand. I personally encourage anyone who is into Warhammer 40k or tabletop in general to simply make their own models. Every model that you make for yourself instead of buying from Games Workshop denies them a sale. Every model that you buy used from someone else also denies them a sale. Do not, under any circumstances, buy new Warhammer 40k models, and especially don't buy anything at all from Games Workshop. Now, I should say that when I mention making your own models, that technically, for legal purposes, I do in fact mean making your own custom models of your own personal design. Which is to say that I am not telling you to copy Games Workshop's models directly. Granted, it would be incredibly easy to do, but I'm not saying you should do that. And I'm saying this for any lawyers that happen to be watching this video right this very second. So when I say make your own models, I do in fact mean make them of your own custom personal design. Hit them where their wallet is. Because yes, it is true that Games Workshop is the king of tabletop gaming right now as far as companies are concerned. Yet that is, nevertheless, still a niche market. It doesn't take as many people as you might think to force the kind of change that everyone wants to see. A world in which Games Workshop starts acting sane, or perhaps even a world without Games Workshop. The company is simply not necessary for the survival of Warhammer 40k as an IP. A very strong argument can be indeed made that Warhammer 40k would be in better hands elsewhere. And when it comes to all the horrific things that Games Workshop have done over the years, well, I have one thing to say to that company: you will not be missed.